focus. Ideate, innovate, enable. YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
May I please welcome our special guest, Sunil Vachani, Chairman, Dixon Technologies, to be here.
Without further ado, Sunil, I want to go back to what everyone's talking about, whether this can be the big breakout moment as far as Indian manufacturing is concerned. You and I have been talking about this. You believe that this is India's time, and that if we don't get it right this time around, then we would have missed the bus for several years to come. Take me through what gives you the confidence that we are at an inflection point, that we're on the cusp of a breakout as far as Indian manufacturing is concerned.
Thank you, Shireen. No, I think there is no doubt that we in the country, in the industry, are sitting on a very large opportunity. The opportunity to make India the next hub for manufacturing for the world. I think if you look at the numbers, they're also very exciting. The total market for ICT products globally as an EMS opportunity is almost $900 billion. As a country, what we are exporting is hardly about $25 billion. So you can say we are about roughly about 2% of the total market. If you see the domestic market also, right, the total market size is roughly about $130 billion. And I think what is extremely positive, that for the first time in the country, almost $100 billion worth of goods have been manufactured. So I think it's a very, very large opportunity for us. But I think we have to realize that what got us to this position of, let's say now that we're manufacturing $100 billion worth of ICT products, will not take us to where we want to be. That is being global leaders, right, and exporting to all over the world. And I think something's got to change. The few things that we have to do as an industry and as a country, first is that we need to create a very robust and efficient component ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I think I'll come to that what really needs to be done for that. Second thing, I think we need to, as an industry and as a country, we need to focus on is creating very, very large scale across the product categories that we are in. Because I firmly believe that global competitiveness comes from scale. And I think gone are the days that, we could think of setting up a factory just catering to, let's say, 5% of the domestic market. What we need now is mega factories. And when I say mega factories, I talk about factories where, in one location, you have, let's say, 100,000 people working on the campus. You have workers living on the campus. And you have your suppliers also around you. So we need large mega clusters. And I think in the industry, we have been talking to the various state governments to ensure that, the whole policy of land allocation is smooth. And also when we're looking at, let's say, having the workers in the campus, of course, the state government needs to look at special rates for that, right? So I think that's extremely important. What is secondly, what's most important is that, as I mentioned, we need to create a large and robust component ecosystem. And I think if you see in a neighboring country, in China, right, the backbone of the component ecosystem is the MSMEs. And I think we need to create a situation wherein the MSMEs can come and invest in the country. Because let's appreciate, it's not very easy for any MSME to, invest large sums in land and building, right? And capital is scarce and capital is expensive for MSMEs. So what in the industry we've been trying to work with the state governments is to try and create a national plug-and-play policy wherein these companies can be allocated, land and building at a special cost, and you construct the sheds for them. A third point, I think what is extremely important now is that we need to, develop products in the nation. So far, I think, the focus has been on just make in India. I think the time has come that we need to now shift to make in India and design in India. That's important. I think so. These are the three things.
And all three important issues that you spoke about in terms of what the road ahead will need to look like for us to be able to go up from 100 billion to 200 billion or whatever the case may be in terms of exports. Let's address the component part first. We've seen in this recent budget, just ahead of the budget, in fact, a tariff reduction coming in. Does that create a level playing field for the industry at this point in time? What more needs to be done to draw in the component ecosystem into India?
Yeah. So, Shireen, let's appreciate that the tariff reduction that happened was just on a few parts for mobile phones.
Yes.
And I think that was more to remove all the confusions and ambiguities that were there in the tariffs, because let's appreciate that a lot of companies were hit with notices and demands just because there was some confusion on the duty structure. So what they've tried to do is bring all the parts at 10% so that there's no ambiguity as far as the customs is concerned.
So you're saying it's not enough?
I'm saying that the custom duty reduction was in the right direction.
Sure.
What really needs to be done is we need to really push investments in the component sector. Let's appreciate that this is one sector which has faced zero customs duty because of the ITA 1 agreement that was signed almost 30 years back. Yeah. Right? So what we need is a very special package to spur the investments in this sector. Now, if you look at the PLI that came in immediately after the mobile phone PLI, that was for encouraging investments in the component sector. But the investment to incentive ratio was probably the lowest. So if you look at the PLI for mobile phones, the investment to incentive ratio was almost 1:7.5. If you look at the auto component PLI, the ratio is 1:10. The PLI that came in for components, the ratio was 1:1. So I think we definitely need another PLI scheme which can spur investments in the component sector. And we are working very closely with the government to ensure that PLI scheme comes in and is as successful as the scheme for mobile phones. And people ask me that has PLI really been a success? Has a policy, has it worked? And I think the honest answer is that, out of a lot of sectors that the PLI is coming for, it's too early to gauge. So if you look at, let's say, the PLI for air conditioners, the PLI for LED lighting components, or the PLI that came in for telecom, this is probably the first year.
That's right.
Right, the companies are going to operate in. The only PLI that we can really gauge is the PLI for mobile phones. Right? And let's appreciate that this PLI has created almost 5 lakh new jobs. It's led to, in fact, incremental production of almost 80,000 crores, right? And it's led to a lot of Indian champions being born. So I think all the boxes that it was supposed to take, it is taking all of them. So I would say it's definitely in the right direction. We need one more probably round of PLI as far as mobile phone is concerned, and a new PLI for electronic components.
Another PLI for mobile phone manufacturing and a separate PLI for components. But you talked about these mega factories, and that's been the China advantage of being able to operate at scale. Do you feel confident, do you feel hopeful of being able to replicate the mega factory model here in India?
Yeah, I think, you see, if you do a comparison today between China and India, in terms of labor cost, right, we are much lower. You'll be very surprised that in terms of productivity, we are achieving as much as productivity as some of these Chinese factories are doing, and maybe sometimes better. What we are lacking in as a country is, of course, the infrastructure. So that means we lose out on the logistics cost. And I think what we're majorly lacking is the supply chain, right? So we tend to import a lot of our components. So just to give you an example, our value addition in mobile phone is still very low, right? We are about 20%. So I'm sure that once that improves, once the infrastructure improves, we should be able to compete with anyone in the world. And as I mentioned, that this is the time, like our Honorable Prime Minister said, that yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai, and apna samay hai. So I believe that this is our time, and we should be able to compete with the best in the world.
Well, speaking of competing, let's also talk about cooperation and what makes sense for us to cooperate, especially in a sector like this. And I know that you've gone on the record to say that, look, continue to draw in Chinese investments into this sector because they have the specialization, the supply chain is there, and it would be detrimental to India's interest not to collaborate. Explain to us and this audience why you believe that we need to look at that.
Yeah. So you see, there's no doubt that we need a robust component ecosystem. There's also no doubt that we need partnerships. Now, if you're looking at, let's say, setting up a display fab, right? Today, the major market that is there in the country for mobile phones or, let's say, laptops is of the LED backlit screen. So OLED, which is a new technology, is still a very, very small market. So just to give you an idea, I think if you look at the laptop market, hardly 5% of the laptops which are sold in the country are OLED, right? And if you look at countries like China and Japan, their main focus now is on OLED technology. They're not going to be coming and investing in India or in any country where you require LED backlight screens. And that's where I think our neighboring country has a lot of strength. So I think we need to leverage that, and we need to partner with companies there. And I think the Indian government has also clarified that as long as the Indian partner holds a majority stake, they're welcome. They should come set up partnerships. So I think that's the way forward.
Speaking of partnerships and the way forward for you, you've done a whole bunch of partnerships. What's on the anvil? What should we expect now from you on that front?
Well, I think for Dixon, it's quite clear that the next level of growth is going to come from a couple of products. In fact, 3 products, I would say, categories, besides the ones that we are already in. So mobile phone going forward is definitely an area of growth. So as you know, that the total market size for mobile phones is almost 3 lakh crores, right? And Dixon is still very small in that in terms of the overall revenue. Last year, this year we'll touch maybe about 9,000 crores. So there's still a very, very long way to go. In terms of the capacity that we have created, out of the total market size in terms of volume, the total market, as you know, for mobile phones is roughly about 240 million pieces. Dixon has set up a capacity of almost 70 million pieces, right? So we are really preparing for the next few years. The next phase of growth for Dixon is also going to come from the IT hardware side. Because as a country, I'm sure a lot of us are aware or maybe not aware, that we import IT hardware worth almost 1 lakh crores, right? Almost $12 billion. So that's a large opportunity for a company like Dixon. And I think in the next few years, that's an area where a lot of growth is going to come for Dixon. And finally, of course, the home appliances, where Dixon, we've set up a new factory for manufacturing refrigerators that has just started this month. And hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months, we should be reaching almost 70% capacity utilization. And recently, we've also set up a factory for manufacturing washing machines. And it's probably one of the largest factories with a capacity of almost 2 million pieces a year. So I think these are some of the areas where we're going to see major growth coming from Dixon.
What will all of this result in revenue terms over the next 5 years for you?
Well, I'm not going to give any guidance, but I think...
Aspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, you see, mobile phone market alone is about 3 lakh crores in the country. the IT hardware market is almost 1 lakh crore. And the home appliances and consumer electronics is almost 80,000 crores. And I don't see any reason why Dixon should not be targeting to get at least 30% of the total market share.
YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
You know, Sunil, you talked about value addition, and the hope is that we will continue to add more and more value as we bring in the component ecosystem to India. But what about brands from India? The manufacturing story needs to be linked to design, development, and brands from India that not just Indians aspire for, but the world aspires for as well. Where do you believe we stand on that front?
I think let me first talk about the value addition. You see, because I've seen a lot of economists writing about the fact that we're just manufacturing. Really, where's the value addition? And I think the same question would have been asked when, let's say, Maruti Suzuki came into the country. That ये तो assembly हो रहा है, components कहाँ हैं यहाँ पे? And today, the auto component sector, I think, is a shining example of what really can be. Because not only are they servicing the domestic market, but now I think they're exporting to all over the world. And I think when we talk about value addition, unfortunately, we only look at the mobile phone sector. Now, let's appreciate that mobile phone is a very typical product where a big part of the bill of material is semiconductor.
Yeah.
Right? So even today, China imports almost 95% of the semiconductors that go into a mobile phone. The value addition that they've achieved is hardly 40%, right? So we're not doing so badly. If you look at home appliances, the value addition that we are achieving as an industry, as a company, and as a country is as high as about 75%, right? So we're doing pretty well there. But I think coming to your point, definitely we need Indian brands. We need brands, Indian champions to come and shine. In fact, I was reading the book written by Mr. Raghuram Rajan, where he talks about that India should be just focusing on the high value-added design business and the branded business. But I think let's not forget, and I tend to, I humbly differ with him on this subject, and I'll tell you why. Let's not forget that the brands which are there in the world today were EMS companies. They started off as EMS companies, right? They started off doing the low-value work, and then they gradually moved up. And let's not forget that no country in the world has gone from an agrarian economy to straight away to services, right? The transition has always happened from agriculture to manufacturing, and then to services, right? So my argument is that why can't we, as a country, focus both on services and on manufacturing?
But on that point about creating world champions from India, is that the aspiration for Dixon?
Yes, absolutely. And I think now Dixon has emerged as the largest Indian EMS company across many sectors. And clearly the vision is that we need to be in the top 10 in the next 5 years, and the top 5 in the top 5 in the next 10 years. So that's the vision, and we hope that we will get there soon.
So before I let you go, and we wish you the very best of luck, ladies and gentlemen, that's a very audacious target that Dixon is on, and a journey that will require a lot of effort and a lot of hard work. But if there's one thing that you would like to leave entrepreneurs who are watching, MSMEs who are listening in to you, who are looking at the manufacturing opportunities that India is faced with today, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, I think, for new entrepreneurs, one thing that a lot of us do, that either we are so involved in the day-to-day operation that, we forget about the big picture. Or some of us are so involved, or, in the, at the 30,000 feet, that we tend to forget that's to, what's going on in the company. So I think for new entrepreneurs, or for any successful entrepreneur, I think it's very important to have a telescopic and a microscopic vision at the same time. So I think if you can acquire that, I think, it's half the job done.
Well, so look at it in parallel, the big picture as well as the micro. Sunil Vachani, we wish you the very best of luck. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Growth Summit. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.